So this is a spotlight session where we are going to explore and hear from our members on what they have done in terms of incorporating national financial inclusion strategies with climate change. And so my name is Eliki Boletawa from the Alliance for Financial Inclusion, and I'm happy to be back home here in Fiji. So as many of you are aware, an NFIS or an NFIF in some of our countries have used the acronym, offers a comprehensive framework that addresses the complexities that are inherent in advancing financial inclusion. And as we've all noted from empirical evidence, it demonstrates that countries with an NFIS or an NFIF have done much better than those that do not have them. And we've also noted from what Klaus has shown with us in terms of the outcomes of the survey, in that 40% directly link an NFIS with climate change. And so the panel today, we have Mr. Poasa Werekoro, who's the Acting Chief Manager for Financial Systems Development and Compliance for the Reserve Bank of Fiji. We have Mrs. Udeni Lansakara, who is the Senior Assistant Director, Regional Development, Central Bank of Sri Lanka. We have Mr. Rath Sovannorak, who is the Assistant Governor and Director General of Banking Supervision, National Bank of Cambodia. And our last panelist, Mr. Tanatas, Bumpenboon, a Senior Analyst, Financial Institution Strategy Department, Bank of Thailand. So the opportunity is going to be given for them to share their stories, focusing on the challenges, the opportunities, and what was the motivation in them incorporating climate change into their various financial sector development strategies or an national financial inclusion strategy or framework. So we will start with our host, Poasa.
Thank you, Eliki. Unfortunately, since I'm the third consecutive speaker from Fiji, there's a risk of me repeating some of the things that were mentioned earlier. So I hope you'll all bear with me. Eliki, I acknowledge that all of the representatives from the countries in this room, we have felt the effects of climate change. And I'd just like to provide a bit of context before I go into how we formed our strategy. That I acknowledge that we are all noticing, the changes in the weather patterns and the rising sea levels, how our storms are hitting harder and more frequently. These disasters, they cost our countries millions of dollars. And for most of us emerging, developing economies, it simply means that we cannot fund these rehabilitation programs on our own. So with that in mind, in 2017, the Fijian government, they published their Climate Vulnerability Assessment Report. And it was estimated that in order to strengthen Fiji's resilience to climate change over the next 10 years, we are looking at an amount of close to $10 billion. And that is around 82% of our GDP. This works out to an additional 500 million of funding that the government needs to look for every year. That amount is the same it's the same amount that government is looking for in terms of their bond issues every year. So they're already looking for 500 million every year. Asking them to double that amount, it's quite difficult. It's clear that the burden of finance for implementation is heavy for government to carry on its own. As mentioned earlier by our governor, this underscores the need for the private sector to play a key role in allocating resources towards sustainable and a green economy. So in this regard, the Reserve Bank, we used our convening power to call together all the financial sector players together in September 2017 for our first Sustainable Finance Initiatives workshop in Holiday Inn in Suva. Arising from this workshop was a recognition of the fact that an overarching framework was required to help the country meet its sustainable financing needs. And since then, the Reserve Bank has been working closely with the World Bank's IFC team and also the Sustainable Banking Network, which we've recently joined to establish Fiji's first sustainable finance roadmap. The roadmap, which is still a work in progress, calls on the financial sector to explore options for aligning Fiji's financial system with the nation's sustainable development agenda. Even though the roadmap is still in progress, the private sector is already starting to make moves. More recently, a recent product is the inclusive insurance, bundled insurance that the UN's PFIP, Pacific Financial Inclusion Program, they collaborated with Fiji Care to produce this product. Also recently announced in our budget, as Governor had mentioned, is the parametric insurance and also crop insurance These are initiatives which will be announced very shortly. In addition to this, support for green financial products is also included in our financial inclusion strategy. So this is under our strategic goal number 4, products and services, where we have undertaken to provide support for the development of green financial services and products. This includes services and products designed for individuals, households, and MSMEs, and that will reduce negative environmental impacts or provide environmental benefits. This also aligns with Fiji's Green Finance Pledge under the Maya Declaration. And this is very important for us because it elevates our commitment at the international level. The concrete target under our commitment is we will work with partners on developing and promoting sustainable business models to support communities' response to climate change. Fiji's first financial sector development plan, 2018 to 2020, which was developed last year, also highlights the important role that the financial sector will play in supporting green finance and achieving our country's sustainable finance goals. We also acknowledge through the plan the need to complement current efforts to improve access to finance and financial services to MSMEs. Government support is, of course, crucial to all of this. What we have done is ensured that all of our work aligns with government's national plans and strategies, including the National Climate Change Policy, the Green Growth Framework, and the 5 and 20-year National Development Plans. With that being said, we acknowledge that it's still early days for Fiji in the green financial inclusion space, but we're happy that AFI is making moves on this, and we're glad that they're launching the first workstream program here in Fiji, Naka.
As this is a session where we would like to really showcase learning for those members that are here and those that are still exploring on how to incorporate climate change into your national strategies, the opportunity to hear from the panel this morning would be very value-adding to you all. So we move on now to Sri Lanka. If you could share your experience.
Thank you very much. Being a developing island nation subject to tropical climate patterns, Sri Lanka is highly vulnerable to the climate change impacts. Extreme weather events such as high intensity rainfall followed by flash floods and landslides, and extended dry period result in water scarcity are now becoming common occurrence in Sri Lanka. Any adverse changes in already volatile weather patterns are likely impact adversely on the socio-economic activities in the country. The estimation cost of the flood nearly 1.2% of GDP, but social cost of the damage is likely to be far greater, and most of coastal areas people have been impacted by the tsunami in 2004. Apart from the impact on agriculture, concerns have also been raised with regard to the sanitation, access to clean drinking, and potential for diseases in the areas, and due to loss in the production and likely increase in the prices or significantly pressures on inflation and flood affected to repayment ability of the MSME sector. Adverse weather conditions that continued from 2016 severely affected paddy production, fell by 6.1 to 2.4 million metric tons during the year, recording the lowest paddy production over the last decade, highlighting the impact of adverse weather conditions, not only for agriculture sector, reflecting the impact of adverse weather conditions. Forestry and fishing activities were contracted, and agricultural production index decline of 10.9% in the 2017. And at present, Sri Lanka is 29.7%, which had affected the rise of global warming in Sri Lanka. And further, Sri Lanka GDP, which maintained an average 4.7% from 2014 to 2016, it fell slightly 3.9 during the 2017. Identifying the importance of incorporating international exposure and experience for the financial inclusion in the country, Central Bank of Sri Lanka entered into signed a cooperation agreement with the International Finance Corporation (IFC) to obtain technical assistance to develop a national financial inclusion strategy for Sri Lanka. SUPA we have already identified, actually we are in initial stage. SUPA we have already identified stakeholders and conducted first round consultative workshop for stakeholders. And we have initiated action to conduct a financial inclusion survey with the assistance of IFC. And we have identified 4 potential pillars such as digital finance and payment, MSME finance and consumer product protection and financial literacy and capacity building. We are ready for conduct a survey, and second consultative meeting will be conducted in near future. And not only that, in 2016, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka joined the International Finance Corporation supported Sustainable Banking Network with a view to promoting sustainable finance practices in Sri Lanka. In February 2017, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka conducted a workshop providing forum for senior staff officers of financial institutions and international partners to discuss ways to means of encouraging sustainable finance practices in Sri Lanka. Following this workshop, the Central Bank has initiated the process of developing sustainable finance roadmap for Sri Lanka to facilitate and promote sustainable finance practices in consultation with relevant government agencies and financial sector stakeholders. And Central Bank expect to obtain views from the relevant stakeholders and financial association on principles. We have identified 8 principles like social and environmental friendly financial service practices and ethical financial service practices and financial inclusions, protect communities and cultural heritage and capacity building, transparency and market disciplines, stakeholder collaboration, communication and management. Overseas are the principles coming under the sustainable financial roadmap. Considering the adverse weather conditions that prevail in the country, Central Bank has introduced credit guarantee loan scheme as a form of insurance that help to protect the insurance of a lender in the event of non-payment by a borrower. For agriculture sector, Central Bank has introduced new comprehensive rural credit scheme for agriculture sector to protect the farmers. Due to sometimes farmers have to face changes due to bad weather conditions such as loss of crops, decline the expected productions. They have to face so many issues like that. Therefore, to protect the farmers, Central Bank has introduced this loan scheme. Not only that, recently Central Bank of Sri Lanka introduced new loan scheme namely Rath for provide concessionary financial facilities to resume any economic activities affected by any disaster such as flood, drought, landslides. And in 2005, Central Bank of Sri Lanka introduced tsunami loan scheme to uplift the socio-economic condition of vulnerable people who are affected from the tsunami. And also government of Sri Lanka has implemented numerous programs in addressing the environmental pollution, conservation of forests, ecosystem and biodiversity, sustainable use of land resources. In addition, Ministry of Environment of Sri Lanka has already launched initiatives such as Blue-Green Development Strategy in line with the Blue-Green Economic Concept of UNEP with a view to promote sustainable development in Sri Lanka through Blue-Green Economic Initiatives. Thank you.
Thank you. That's your mic. So we'll move on now to the Bank of Cambodia for them to share their experience.
Thank you, Eliki. First of all, I would like to thank AFI to inviting me to join this forum. The royal government of Cambodia is put climate change as a priority in the policy agenda. And in 2004, the government adopted the Cambodia Climate Change Strategic Plan 2014 to 2023, and also adopt the Climate Change Action Plan 2016 and 2018. So the Ministry of Environment is the leading agency that implement this strategy and work closely with other ministry and private sector. National Bank Cambodia as central bank, we discuss closely with the Bank Association and initiate the idea of increasing access to green financing in 2016. And since then, the association has completed the draft of Cambodian Sustainable Finance Principle implementation guidelines, and is expected to be endorsed and signed by all members. We as the National Bank Cambodia support this association and encourage bank and microfinance that under supervision of National Bank Cambodia. And the guideline consists of 9 principles. That first principle, assess and manage environmental risks relating to climate change, pollution, and waste management, and the protection of our critical natural resources. Principle 2, assess and manage risks that could potentially negatively impact our people, in particular local community, workers, and indigenous minority population. Principle 3, assess and manage risks that could potentially negatively impact aspects of our cultural heritage, including our language, culture, tradition, and monuments. Principle 4, increase the financial awareness of the Cambodian people and improve our approach to customer protection. Principle number 5, expand our reach to those who previously had no or limited access to the formal banking sector, as well as providing more innovative solutions to improve banking access and service level. Principle 6 will finance innovation that create efficiency and improvement of existing traditional sectors and business activity, as well as for developing new green economy activity. Principle 7, seek to build capacity across the bank to deliver on our commitment, as well as raising awareness of our customer and community about the sustainable inclusive finance. Principle 8, manage our own environmental and social footprint and request similar standards from our supplier. Principle 9, will annually report our individual and sector progress against this commitment to hold ourselves accountable and to share the story and outcome of our journey and the value we believe can be created for the Cambodia. This 9 principle, a bank will incorporate into its decision-making process in order to provide financial services. So as a central bank, our main mission is to maintain price stability and play a role in supervision of banking and financial sector. Our bank also strongly support and encourage bank and MFI to increase and expand their financial access to unbanked and undeserved population and focus on environmental friendly financing. Thank you.
Thank Thank you very much, Mr. Sovannorak. And then now we'll move on to Max from Bank of Thailand for his presentation.
Thank you. Thank you, Eliki, and thank you, RBF and AFI for hosting the event. Actually, before I attend this event, my favorite color is red or maybe purple. But however, after listening to you guys, my favorite color is now green. Thanks for inspiring me. Let me talk about the big picture first. The concept of environment and climate change has always been an emphasis in Thailand for so long, under the whole concept of sustainability, which embraces the climate change and the green finance itself, within itself. Thailand attaches great importance to the concept of sustainable development, which has long taken root in the country. The country has been guided by the sufficiency economy philosophy, as many of you know, conceived by His Majesty the late King Bhumibol Adulyadej. The SEP has been adopted as the core principle of the National Economic and Social Development Plan since 2002, and the current constitution has integrated the sufficiency economy and the sustainability concept as an integral part. Currently, we also attain to the Sustainable Development Goals announced by the UN, and it has been integrated in our 20 years National Plan framework and the 12th National Economic and Social Development Plan as well. With respect to the climate change, Thailand is one of the countries with high vulnerabilities to the impact of the climate change. This places the issue among national priorities. Consequently, measures on climate change has been incorporated in our plan, as our national plan, as I stated before. And for example, we are promoting like the initiative to use bio-based natural resources and so on, the like. For the Bank of Thailand, we kind of have the similar approach. As Klaus has presented, a lot of central bank they do come from the financial inclusion and then move to the green finance, and some of the bank they do from the green finance to the financial inclusion. The Bank of Thailand is kind of taking the first step that I talked about. So we start from financial inclusion first, and then trying to move to the green finance. For the green finance and the climate change, we are in an initial steps. Sustainable development has become the world and Thailand one of the most important agenda. We at the Bank of Thailand feel the same as well. Banks can play an important role in promoting sustainable development in several aspects. This includes providing retail banking with social responsibilities, as well as promoting good governance, ethics, and anti-corruption, and having considered the increasing importance of sustainable banking. Like at the Bank of Thailand, we feel like the sustainable banking is the whole concept that embrace all that climate change, the greenhouse gas as well. We feel that the Bank of Thailand has set up a medium-term direction in our 3-year strategic plans to promote sustainable banking in the Thai financial sector. About 4 months ago, I would say on 23rd of July 2018, the Bank of Thailand has organized the Bangkok Sustainable Banking Forum 2018 to enhance awareness of the importance and benefits of sustainable banking among banks in Thailand, and a lot of banks, and every bank in Thailand has participated. This is a curtain raising event for the high level seminar, which target the board members as well as the top executive from the bank, from the commercial bank, to set the right tone from the top. This forum has enhanced the greater awareness of sustainability practice in finance by bringing together leaders in the area of sustainability, showcasing the best practices and effort taken by participants from the financial sector and identifying areas that we can improve. One initiative that is about financial inclusion is our basic banking account. It's not really directly about the climate change yet. As I said, we are still exploring choices, a way to exploring on the climate change. But let me talk you a little bit about the basic banking account. It is just a simply lower fee account that has an interest bearing. It allows people to open the bank account with zero balances, no minimum requirement, and no account maintenance fee. It's just the account is designed for the people who hold the government welfare card and the one who is like more than 65 years old. This is our step for the financial inclusion, and it is kind of making a big impact right now. With that focus in sustainable banking and keep that in mind, green financing is definitely one initiative that we will explore more. We're definitely thinking about encouraging banks to extend the green loan to companies that support climate change. You all should be able to see more progress, and the picture on sustainability that will become clearer hopefully next year. Right now, we are thinking about like discussing with the Thai Banker Association on whether like I know that they have in their mind on the climate change thing and the green finance now, but we will explore more and talk about it more. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. So we've heard from our panel this morning on the various steps that they've taken, the initiatives they've put in place, the guideline which Bank of Cambodia have taken into consideration when looking at their overarching framework on financial inclusion and how they incorporate climate change. So my next question to the four of you is in terms of our members that are present here today that are exploring on how to link climate change into their NFIS or NFIF. What are some of the lessons that you would impart with them for them to consider when developing or incorporating climate change into their NFIS or NFIF? Maybe we start with Poasa.
Thank you, Eliki. So, in our experience at the bank, this talk of, the climate change agenda, right? We appreciate that it's something that needs to be addressed. However, we also acknowledge that we are not the experts in this area, nor can we be, because we are central bankers at the end of the day. We understand that the expertise for this mainly comes from our development partners or through government. And while these experts do formulate plans, good plans, we need to ensure that the funding for the plans are sustainable. So that's where the link comes to us as regulators of the financial industry. We ensure that there is that link to our financial inclusion strategy and our development plans to make sure that the financing is sustainable.
It's our experience that climate change impact to everyone, also to the financial sector. So we noticed that, and then we consider discuss with the association about this policy action to respond to climate change. And we joined like several seminars a few years back, and also association joined sustainable banking network also, and everyone know that climate change is very important to our agenda. So we discuss and talk each other, and with development partner also that they help the bank and microfinance institution to finance green energy, renewable energy, something like that, biogas. So it's everyone, they agree on it, and they develop the and common principle, 9 principle that they agree that they will sign at the end of the year or early of next year. They already have final draft and discussion with the central bank. And after that, we just wait to see the implementation. Thank you.
Actually, as I said earlier, we have already, we are working on the compiling sustainable financial roadmap for concerning green finance, and we are in the initial stage of the compiling national financial inclusion strategy for entering the climate change accept. So I think in addition, we are moving on, in government of Sri Lanka has decided to implement the crop insurance schemes to face climate change, and warehouse insurance schemes, agriculture equipment insurance, livestock insurance scheme. And our sustainable financial roadmap will be published in next year. So I'm definitely sure that the climate change has included that.
Thank you. Max?
I think the Bank of Thailand situation is similar to Assistant Governor Rath in Cambodia. We are discussing about the policy action toward climate change to the Thai Banker Association in Thailand as well. But when we organized the Bangkok Sustainable Banking Forum in 2018, 4 months ago, we can see that a lot of Thai bank has already achieved something regarding the green bond and green finance. For example, a commercial bank in Thailand already started green lending some time ago, and the green lending right now for that bank currently stand at 280 million US dollars, and they expect to increase to 470 million dollars within the next 5 years. The customers already include solar and other alternative energy projects, and the same bank already issued the green bond as well, the first of its kind by the Thai commercial bank. The amount was the US dollars, 60 million US dollars. Is entirely subscribed by the IFC. The proceeds will be used to support smart climate projects and other environmentally friendly investment. And another bank has issued a bond called sustainability bonds as well, and they are the bond is totaling like around 100 million US dollars, and they're quite successful. So you can see that the Thai commercial bank has already begun this green financing and the green development already. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. So for those that are not really familiar with the Alliance of Financial Inclusion, we have 6 thematic technical working groups that focus on policy topics, which we believe push forward the frontier for financial inclusion. And one of the working group is on Financial Inclusion Strategy Peer Learning Group. And this specific working group focuses on the work on national strategies for financial inclusion. And it would be amiss of me not to ask our chair for this specific working group, Ms. Nangi Masawi from Bank of Tanzania, who is here this morning as well, to share with us her take, and specifically on what the working group is doing when it comes to the design of national financial inclusion strategies or framework, and the various characteristics to consider when we are trying to include climate change into an NFIS or NFIF. Nangi, please.
Thank you, Eliki, and good morning. First of all, I'm happy to be part of this workshop on green financial inclusion. Since morning, we have been hearing, especially from those who have been already affected and have put down at least something on green financial inclusion. When you hear about that, and especially when you hear about climate change, and when you hear of what is happening in the world today, you will realize that there is no way you can run away from this topic of green financial inclusion, especially if you are a member of AFI. So coming to the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, I think this is one of the agenda which is very, very important. We were not thinking about that before. I don't need to go back on where it started. I think it has been, most of them have been talking since morning. But all in all, I can say that from the strategy, this is a right platform to introduce this green financial inclusion as a new agenda. I'm saying it's a right platform because through financial inclusion strategy, that is where all stakeholders from public and private sector meet and discuss issues. So when you introduce this subject, it will be a good opportunity for them, even those who thought that this is not, we are not part of it, but this will be a very good platform for them to see that they are really involved. And through that, we can also consider about coordination. As I said, this involves public and private sector. Public in terms of policy makers are those who are putting down all these policies. But on the other side, we have private sector who are those people who are implementing. The innovators are there. But all these efforts need to be coordinated. So it is through the strategy that you'll be able to coordinate all these efforts. And I think that through the National Inclusion Strategy, it will be the right platform to come up with a definition of green financial inclusion. We have heard in the morning, I think it was Bangladesh, they talked about defining about 60-something product regarding the green financial inclusion. But I think if you take the example of Bangladesh and coming in other countries, we may come up with a good definition for green financial inclusion. Although most of the time definition depend on the environment of the country, but we can come up with something which can cut across for all countries. And through the financial inclusion strategy, I remember the question from Dr. Hanning about measuring the impact. If it's only one institution, let's say the central bank, dealing most with the financial inclusion, I think it will be very difficult for it to measure the impact of it. But when you bring it to the National Financial Inclusion Strategy, it will be easier because there you have almost all implementers over there. So it will be easy to start seeing to start measuring the impact. Remember, when you talk about that, you have funders or supporters from different areas to support the issue when it comes in. And if you are not careful, when you bring in the supporters, yes, they'll support you, because the issue has come to a stage where you have spent a lot and you do not have fund, but you still need to support those people who have been affected. But on the other side, if you let these supporters coming in without any coordination, you are going to open door even to the money laundering. So it is through the financial inclusion strategy that you will be able to coordinate them, first of all, and at the end, you'll be able to measure the impact of their support in this green finance. And I think even Klaus mentioned that in this green finance, there are two things which we are looking at. First, the mitigation, and second, the adoption. So you'll be able to measure these two things. First, by defining them. Then, when you have been able to define them very well, it will be even easier to measure the impact of it. And as a chair for financial inclusion strategy, I will encourage, and I think that is the starting point for the members in our group to make sure that they are trying to integrate this issue in their strategies. And I think it will be the beginning to introduce that thing of capacity building, starting from the policymakers, not only the central bank, because you should look on the other regulators too in the financial sector, and you also look at even those beyond the financial sector, especially those who have been touched with this agenda of financial inclusion. So you let them have the build capacity on them so that they can come up with the specific policies for green financial inclusion, and then for them to be able to support the private sector, especially on coming up with a product that will support those affected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nangi. So we have 1 minute. If there's any question to the panel here. I know we are standing between you and lunch now. But if there is no question, then again, just to quickly summarize and wrap up. So we've heard some of very important words that have come out today: coordination, collaboration, partnership, looking at impact, definition, and all these are very important when we are considering or looking at incorporating climate change into your NFIS or NFIF. And we hope that the lessons that you've heard from the panelists today would contribute to your learning as you build on developing or incorporating financial inclusion and climate change into your national financial inclusion strategy or framework. And on that note, thank you again for your participation. If you could give a round of applause to our panelists for today. Thank you very much.